Hello and welcome back to the AT-AT Chat. Today we are continuing our Mandalorian journey, and the latest episode, titled The Passenger, was surprisingly very fun, but in a very different way than I expected. I was completely wrong in my predictions video, I'll put it that way. Absolutely not a thing happened that I thought would, and I think it's going to happen in the next episode. So anyways, to boil down this episode into a run-on sentence, it's a creature feature set in Star Wars land where Mr. Mando has to keep an eye on his kid who keeps eating a passenger's children, while also fighting off spiders because Baby Yoda is a menace to tiny living beings. There were a lot of fun little moments in this episode, and while it's not exactly a heavy character-driven episode at all, it does reveal to us that Din Djarin is more mindful of his role as caregiver to the child, as well as giving us a glimpse into the Republic and their knowledge of Din from Season 1, which seems to be setting up something down the line at the end of this season. So with that all out of the way, let's get into exactly what happened, and spoiler warning, if you haven't seen this episode, get out of here. So, this episode kicks back off on Tatooine exactly where the previous one left off, while the Mandalorian is heading back to Pelimado. While this is happening, a group of either bounty hunters or scavengers are setting up a tripwire which absolutely destroys the speeder that Din and the child are traveling on. Now, the reason I think they might be bounty hunters is due to the fact that they referred to Baby Yoda as the child. However, he is a child, so yeah, hard to say. The Mando defeats each one of these guys. However, one of them looked surprisingly familiar, and it took me a second, but then I realized that this metal-faced short dude looks exactly like the guy on Jakku who reprimands Rey for daydreaming. Now, it does look like this little alien guy died after falling out of the sky because the Mandalorian tricked him, but who knows? Boba Fett survived, so why not this little weird alien man? Now, after this, Din and the child make their way back to Pelimado, crossing the expansive deserts of Tatooine. Kind of reminded me of Cobb Vanth just walking through the desert. Pretty cool, like the wide shots. And we also end up back in the Mos Eisley Cantina for just a little bit. Right now, Din is out of leads for other Mandalorians to help him on his quest, and an alien called Dr. Mandibles, as Pelimado put it, apparently has a lead on someone who can help the Mandalorian. And this all leads into the basic plot of the episode, which is safely getting this individual and their eggs to a new planet in order to get info on a Mandalorian Coburn that's in that sector as well. Now, the one odd thing about this, and I heard a few people actually mention this in their reviews, because yeah, I watch Star Wars reviews too. The Mando is forced to travel at sublight speed, which is obviously risky. As Din said, moving fast is the only thing keeping him safe. The passenger is a reptilian female whose eggs would die if they entered into hyperspace. So, good enough explanation to me. And side note, while we are receiving all of this information regarding the passenger and the eggs, Baby Yoda is eyeing the reptilian eggs. And this little bit plays out through the entire show, because little Baby Yoda is a very hungry guy. And playing off that, as they finally get onto the Razor Crest and head to this new planet, the child ends up staring at the eggs again. And honest to God, I laughed out loud at the shot where you see the child's face through the tank. It's hilarious. It's such a great moment, but this does lead to the little guy eating an egg and Din having to actually do some parenting. We can see now that beyond his duty to just merely protect the child, Din is also kinda trying to teach him right and wrong the best that he can. At least that's how I'm reading all of this and the progression of their relationship. I also think my heart melted when Mando said, "Nap time."
Nap time.
Now after this nap, two X-Wings from the New Republic end up pulling up next to the Razor Crest, asking for Din to give them his information. He's basically being pulled over in space. And spoiler, we have our boy Dave Filoni back in the cockpit again. So long story short, these X-Wings need a ping from the Razor Crest because they are looking for Imperial holdouts. Either way, Din is super sketchy during the entire exchange, and the Filoni X-Wing pilot asks the other X-Wing pilot to switch channels for a second. And obviously, they are now discussing the fact that they know that this ship was involved in that New Republic prison escape from Episode 6 in Season 1. He's directly asked about that situation as the X-Wings go into attack mode, and then Din flees the situation, resulting in an amazing chase through the atmosphere of this unknown planet. And unfortunately, Din crashes and falls through the ice. So this is that ice location from the trailers, which I thought was going to be Ilum. But again, I was wrong. And from here, the episode is just very basic. With the Razor Crest down, Din goes to check everything out, again finding the child eating another one of the passenger's eggs. And also, Baby Yoda burps are the best. So the passenger, being unable to really communicate with Din about the seriousness of her journey, ends up reprogramming the remnants of the droid Zero so that she can use his vocabulator to talk directly to Din. I actually thought this was really cool, and it made the frog-like creature seem ridiculously intelligent. I did not see this kind of thing coming. So awesome. And the passenger kind of lays into Din for not honoring his word regarding getting the passenger safely to the next sector. She says all those tales about Mandalorians honoring their word must be just for tales for children. Something along those lines. And this pushes Din to begin fixing the crest and honoring his word. Meanwhile, our passenger ends up traversing the caverns of this underground cave without Din knowing, and hangs out in a naturally occurring hot spring to keep her eggs warm. When Din finds her, the child ends up meandering off because, surprise, surprise, he sees more eggs scattered around this entire ice cave, hundreds of them. And when he eats one of those, we quickly realize that it's something very similar to the Ralph McQuarrie designs for the knobby white spiders, and super similar to the aliens we saw in Lothal, which clearly are inspired by the same Ralph McQuarrie art. Either way, all of a sudden, every single egg hatches, along with this big mama spider just showing up, and all hell breaks loose. This whole thing, as I said earlier, gets super creature feature-ish, which I thought was really fun. And in the end, when we think that Din, the passenger, and the child are absolutely toast, those two X-Wing pilots save their asses by annihilating the swarm of spiders and killing the big-ass mother. Now at first, the pilots tell Din that he has a warrant out for his arrest due to helping prisoner X6911. That's the same one we saw escape from Season 6 again. But the pilot continues that Din also apprehended 3 individuals from the wanted register. And they also say that security records show that Din put himself in harm's way to protect Lieutenant Davin. So things are a bit in his favor. So they aren't going to arrest him, even though that they could, and they also say fix that transponder next time or else. And I think that's all a fair trade-off. Din doesn't get any help from them, however, he doesn't go to jail or die from a gigantic spider alien. And finally, the Razor Crest gets as fixed as it can be, escaping the planet in the hole that it fell into, and for now it's basically just drifting through space. So my guess is the intro to Chapter 11, or Episode 3 of Season 2, will begin exactly how the main trailer begins for The Mandalorian Season 2, a floating Razor Crest over that gas giant that Pelimato mentioned. So overall, yes, a very simple story, with very little progression of the overall plot. But this is also a serialized show where things will go off in different tangents and directions from time to time. With that said, the production value, the score, almost everything looks incredible. Season 2 really has been much more visually pleasing to me. And as I said, while this was kind of a light episode, the creature feature nature of it was very great. And Baby Yoda being an absolute menace to tiny creatures because of his hunger was funny as hell. So that does it for this review of Chapter 11, The Passenger. I'm curious to what you all thought about this episode. Some folks are already super mad about this episode, but to be frank, that's kind of a dimension that I just don't live in and I never will. May the Force be with you. This is The Way, and AT-AT is signing off.